Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. I'm Daphne Osenia Paez, and this is the final session of the 2024 Post-SONA discussions. We hope everyone is safe and well in their homes. It has been raining relentlessly due to Typhoon Karina, but rest assured that all government agencies involved in response and rescue, led by the President, are closely monitoring the situation nationwide. And that is why some of our panelists for today will be joining us via Zoom. And now we will focus our discussion on the topic of good governance, peace and order, and security. Isa sa mga binibigyang halaga ng bagong Pilipinas ang positibong pagbabago at progreso sa gobyerno to promote trust among citizens and government. Kapayapaan at seguridad ay mga sangkap para sa isang bagong Pilipinas. Our distinguished panelists for this session, Department of Transportation Secretary Jaime Bautista, Office of the Presidential Assistant for Marawi Rehabilitation Secretary Nasser Pangandaman, National Security Advisor Secretary Eduardo Año, Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation Chairman Alejandro Tenco, Department of Foreign Affairs Undersecretary Charles Jose, Department of Interior and Local Government Undersecretary Lord Villanueva, Department of National Defense Undersecretary Angelito De Leon, Department of Justice Undersecretary Raul Vasquez, Philippine Coast Guard Commandant Coast Guard Admiral Ronnie Hill Gavan, Philippine National Police Chief Police Lieutenant General John Michael Dubria, and Acting Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, Lieutenant General Charlton Sean Gerlan. As conveyed from the third State of the Nation address of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., pag-usapan natin ang isa sa kanyang mga tinalakay. One of these is flashed on our screen. In the face of our challenges to our territorial sovereignty, we will assert our rights and interests in the same fair and pacific way that we have always done. Proper diplomatic channels and mechanisms under the rules-based international order remain the only acceptable means of settling disputes. Peace and community building will always be our clarion call, especially when the country serves as chair and the host of the ASEAN Summit in 2026. This is for the DFA. Can you please share with us the results of the Trilateral Summit Leaders Summit held in the U.S. in April of this year? What projects or initiatives are we expecting as a result of this summit?
Well, at this time, I would like to speak about the West Philippine Sea issue in general terms muna, before I go into details. The West Philippine Sea is a key issue with domestic and foreign policy dimensions. And this is where the close coordination of the member agencies of the National Task Force on the West Philippine Sea and the National Maritime Council is most clearly demonstrated. As a maritime and archipelagic nation connected by the waters, reliance on the oceans as an avenue for connectivity, a source for livelihood and economic well-being, this means that challenges in the West Philippine Sea and in all our waters are core issues that direct to the hearts and minds of all Filipinos. The President said in his SONA that we will assert our rights and interests in the same fair and pacific way that we have always done. This policy has rung true since the President took up the mantle of the presidency in 2022. The Philippines has continued to demonstrate its commitment to peace. However, you may recall that the President also said in one occasion that our calm and peaceful disposition should not be mistaken as acquiescence. This is why we remain steadfast in upholding our sovereignty, sovereign rights, and jurisdiction in the West Philippine Sea and in all our waters, without compromising our positions and our principles. The President said in his SONA that proper diplomatic channels and mechanisms under the rules-based international order remain the only acceptable means of settling disputes, and we have employed exactly that. We continue to build strong relations in and around the region to support our principled position. Bilaterally with China, we just concluded the 9th Philippines-China bilateral consultation mechanism on the South China Sea in Manila on July 2, 2024. Subsequently, the understanding of principles and approaches that will be observed by both sides during the conduct of the Philippines' lawful and routine rotation and resupply missions to the BRP Sierra Madre in Ayungin Shoal was agreed. We are hopeful that this can be a positive contribution to de-escalate tensions and settle disputes in the West Philippine Sea. So that in short is what the work the DFA is doing in order to ease the tensions in the West Philippine Sea by means of diplomatic approaches.
Thank you, Undersecretary Jose. Moving forward to the next quote, our bloodless war on dangerous drugs adheres and will continue to adhere to the established 8 E's of an effective anti-illegal drug strategy. Extermination was never one of them. This is for the DILG. To cut down the demand for illegal drugs, you have pursued the BIDA program. Could you please tell us more about the BIDA program and its achievements so far?
Well, thank you for the question, Daphne. The BIDA stands for Buhay Ingatan, Drogay Ayawan. And the first 2 words of that motto, Buhay Ingatan, are no accident. They emphasize this administration's value, the value that it places on the dignity of life and on human rights. And as testament to the effectivity of this program, I'd like to note that this administration has, within just its first 2 years, seized a total of 44 billion pesos worth of illegal drugs. And based on statistics, this is the highest amount, highest value of illegal drugs that has ever been seized in the first 2 years of any administration in history. So that's a tremendous achievement, considering that this was done without any bloodshed or any great bloodshed. And the BIDA program, of course, includes a component of rehabilitation, of bringing drug surrenderies and bringing them into recovery and returning them back to the community. And almost 500,000 have been part of this program and have been successfully integrated into the community. So that's the BIDA program in a nutshell. It is a life-centered effort towards achieving strides against drugs within the bounds of our oath as public officers, and it also focuses on rehabilitation and treatment and in promoting health and wellness also among the youth. Secretary Ben-Hur has, by way of modeling a healthy lifestyle, on a practically monthly and weekly basis, been traveling all around the country, engaging in fun runs, engaging in dialogues with government officials in order to promote health and wellness among the youth, on the idea that merely catching drug pushers and drug suppliers is not enough. We must also reduce the demand for drugs. It has to be a two-pronged effort, by reducing supply and reducing demand for drugs by promoting youth and wellness. That is the holistic approach of the BIDA campaign. Thank you, Daphne.
Thank you, Undersecretary Villanueva. Similarly important, the discussions about the operations of POGO is now rampant. As such, President Marcos reiterated that disguising as legitimate entities, their operations have ventured into illicit areas farthest from gaming, such as financial scamming, money laundering, human trafficking, prostitution, kidnapping, torture, and even murder. The grave abuse and disrespect to our system of laws must stop. Kailangan nang itigil ang panggugulo nito sa ating lipunan at paglalapastangan sa ating bansa. Still for the DILG, are there policy reforms or laws that need to be amended to ensure that syndicates that run scamming, human trafficking, and online crimes would not be able to operate in the country again? DILG?
Yes. I think what we in the DLG are focusing now is improving interfacing between law enforcement and local governments so that there can be greater cooperation with respect to rooting out this menace. One thing we would like to emphasize is although we've come to know this new kind of organized crime as POGOs or online gaming operations, another term for them is scam farms. It goes so much more than just simple scams or online gaming. In effect, this new kind of organized crime, these hubs of multiple buildings, they function as BPOs of global crime. It's not just scamming, it's just not just online gaming, it's every form of cybercrime under the sun, including money laundering, data harvesting, you've got disinformation, you also got investment scams, even identity theft, all kinds of fraud. So they do this directly or they do this in service of underworld bosses abroad. And most insidiously, these kinds of operations are run by slave labor, where the people participating in them are made to work under inhuman conditions and tortured. And their operations appear to be like normal BPOs since they sit in front of computer screens. It's not obvious, which is why the close cooperation between the community, between the local governments and law enforcement needs to be strengthened. So what the LG has been doing is been going around. We've had 2 conferences so far with the help of PAGCOR. We've engaged PAGCOR to help us also present to the public the signs, the factors by which these kinds of syndicates can be identified.
Thank you for your insights. Let's dive into the next excerpt. The Philippines cannot yield, the Philippines cannot waver. We are now more conscious as a people and strategic in heightening our aerial and maritime domain awareness. We are continuing to strengthen our defense posture both through developing self-reliance and through partnerships with like-minded states. This is for the DND. Could you please share with us the status of our efforts to strengthen international defense partnerships? Please expound on this.
Thank you, Ms. Sapi, for the question. The department is currently pursuing the Comprehensive Archipelagic Defense Concept, or CADC, which aims to broaden the strategic depth of the armed force of the Philippines. Simply put, from an inwardly defensive depth concept, we are venturing forth to a defense concept that would ensure that our interest in the exclusive economic zone and the extended continental shelf shall be well protected, to include the protection of our citizens abroad. In the pursuit of the Comprehensive Archipelagic Doctrine, or CADC, there are certain capabilities that the armed forces would need. And in the pursuit of these capabilities, we are venturing forth into the Re-Horizon 3 of the AFT modernization program. This intends to develop our armed forces into an expert and a force that can be multi-domain and could address the evolving security landscape presently besetting us. We are also venturing forth in the development of our cyber defense capabilities, as it is a new domain of warfare. We are developing not only capabilities, but the organizational progress of our cyber group, the AFP Cyber Group, into a AFP Cyber Command. And while we establish an effective maritime domain presence, not only in the West Philippine Sea, but in the entire archipelago, we also engage international defense and security partners abroad. To date, we have 33 formalized engagements. Sweden, which is the newest country we have engaged in, and we are venturing forth into exercises with these countries. The reciprocal access agreement recently signed with Japan is a testament to this engagement. And finally, not only the developing capabilities of our armed forces, we are on track to a defense transformation program that would like to transform the Department of National Defense into a future-ready department that will be able to adequately service our stakeholders, including our 5 bureaus, which are the Government Arsenal, the National Defense College of the Philippines, the Office of Civil Defense, the Philippine Veterans Affairs Office, and finally, the Armed Forces of the Philippines. These are the thrusts that we are venturing forth in our international engagement in the pursuit of defending our territory. Thank you.
Thank you, Undersecretary De Leon. The President also mentioned that bolstering our Cybercrime Prevention Act, the recently passed Anti-Financial Account Scamming Act, will further protect the public by heightening the responsibility and security systems of banks and financial institutions and imposing high criminal liabilities on social engineering schemes and money mules. This is for the DOJ. The DOJ has an office for cybercrime. Could you please tell us more about your agency's efforts to fight cybercrime and how the AFASA can help in this fight?
Good afternoon, Daphne, and good afternoon to our fellow Filipino people. The Department of Justice is very much focused on heightening its capacity in terms of the cyber prevention, cybercrime prevention. And in fact, the recent approval and signing into law of the cybercrime law, and that this capacitates more the law enforcement as well as the prosecutors in the fight against cybercrime. We are also trying to ensure that the National Justice Information System, or the NGIS, which is under the helm and leadership of the Department of Justice, would soon enable all partner agencies in that interagency group to talk, quote unquote, with each other in order that they could do information sharing, that all data could be uploaded and could be made available to everyone in the fight against criminality. And we have also to mention that there is an effort to really secure latest technology in order to enable the prosecutors and law enforcement in this fight against cybercrime. We have to emphasize, Daphne, that the law is a bit static and a bit behind in terms of the technology, and cybercrime, as we know it, is an ever-evolving area where there is a lot of prospects for criminalities within the domestic sphere as well as the international sphere. There is transnational crimes that are committed, and there is a serious effort, an all-government approach that is being undertaken by all the security agencies of our government, the armed forces, the law enforcement, in order that we would be able to combat this rising nefarious activity.
Okay, thank
So
you.
that's with respect with the cybercrime matter, Daphne.
Thank you, Undersecretary Vasquez. We'll get back to you a little while. But we still have you in the next one. Let's talk about this quote from the third SONA. the strong pillars of our criminal justice system, especially in light of the revised rules on preliminary investigation and inquest proceedings, and our independent judiciary functions in unison so that our laws are enforced and that justice is served. Undersecretary, what are the next steps to successfully implement these new rules on preliminary investigation?
The newly signed DOJ NPS National Prosecution Service rules on preliminary investigation and inquest proceedings virtually changed the landscape in criminal investigation and prosecution by ensuring that there be a higher degree of proof. There's a higher degree quantum of proof or evidence needed for the filing of cases. This is to ensure that only quality cases are filed, one that is supported by evidence, real, testimonial, and other corroborative witness, in order that the wrongdoers or the criminals would really be brought to bear before the bar of justice. But at the same time, and more importantly, it is also to assure that the innocents need not needlessly be charged in court or need not needlessly be incarcerated. So, as former President Laurel mentioned, it's better to let go of 1,000 criminals or guilty than to jail one innocent. So the efforts of the DOJ is really to ensure that first, under the case build-up rule, we will also try to formalize the close cooperation, coordination, and assistance between the law enforcement and the prosecution in order that only trial-ready and evidence-supported cases be filed. And on that point, we have initiated the establishment at this point of a forensic institute, which would now make real a science-based investigation in terms of criminal investigation and prosecution. But this is also useful in terms of calamity and disaster control, because with the higher capacity of our doctors and medical practitioners in terms of forensic science, we would be able to determine the real causes of death. Recently, the DOJ with the United Nations and UP College of Manila inked a memorandum of agreement. That this was a day after the signing of the NPS DOJ rules in Malacanang before in the presence of our President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. And that MOA enabled UP College Manila to be able to conduct comprehensive autopsy of Bucor deaths. This is important because we really need to know what caused the death of our persons in detention, the persons deprived of liberty. And on the flip side of that, it is also good because we should now be able to understand and be able to confront the problems that are besetting our prison systems. I think the health system there, the food they eat, the health facilities, etc. And that is a way by which we would be able to improve the health conditions and the living conditions in our jail system. It is sad to note that the recent reports that came from UP College Manila showed that many deaths in Bucor of persons held in detention, these were basically because of tuberculosis and other respiratory diseases. This means that there is really a serious problem with respect to the living conditions. And it's high time for us to do something about that as well. And incidentally, that is one of the pledges that was made by the Philippine government through Executive Secretary Lucas P. Bersamin when we went to Geneva last December. The other one is the creation of a committee, a Human Rights Coordination Committee that will oversee the performance of all government agencies to ensure that all government agencies would perform their tasks and sworn duties under the prism of human rights promotion and protection, Daphne.
Thank you for updating us on the reforms on the justice system under Secretary Vasquez. Let's move now forward to the another equally important subject. The President mentioned this in his SONA. We continuously try to find ways to de-escalate tensions in contested areas with our counterparts without compromising our position and our principles. I know that our neighbors too are doing their very best to make this work. For Secretary Año of the National Security Council, could you please share with us some of the efforts to promote consultation and information sharing among our allies and partners on the issue of the West Philippine Sea?
Maraming salamat, Daphne. First of all, we at the National Security Council and the NTF-WPS would like to express our deep appreciation for the President's statement at the SONA that West Philippine Sea is ours and not a figment of imagination. And the President clearly stated that the Philippines cannot yield and the Philippines cannot waver. Surely there is no backtracking. Our position on the WPS remains fixed and unassailable. It is a position that is solidly grounded in history, in Philippine laws and statute, as well as international law and legal instruments, like, for example, the 1734 Murillo Velarde Spanish map, the Treaty of Paris in 1898, the Treaty of Washington in 1900, the covenant between the United States and the Great Britain in 1930. And of course, the UNCLOS in 1982, and the latest, of course, is the arbitral award by the PCA issued on July 12, 2016. So makita natin na talagang legally and historically atin ang West Philippine Sea. We have sovereignty over the islands and rocks, as well as sovereign rights over the sea and low tide elevation within our EEZ. Of course, we also have the support of the international community, unlike the 10-dash line, which has no legal and historical basis. So ito talaga ang tunay na katang-isip. The administration of President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. in our country will always seek to uphold peace, stability, security, and rule of law to ensure a free and Indo-Pacific region. We are also guided with ASEAN centrality and processes. The stability is built and sustained through sincere dialogue and active participation with our neighboring states, with the support of our allies and like-minded countries, guided by international law and rule-based international order. In fact, there are 43 countries who are supporting the arbitral award, and 26 of them have openly expressed support and even condemning the acts, the illegal and aggressive acts of the PRC. And in all the forum, conferences, summit that we are joining and participating, we make sure that the arbitral award is always part of the agenda. But unfortunately, tensions remain in some contested areas, particularly in Ayungin Shoal, which is considered a low tide elevation within our EEZ, where we maintain PRP Sierra Madre as an outpost. Lately, it was the scene of numerous incidents and skirmishes brought about by illegal, aggressive, coercive, and deceptive actions by another government, well, particularly the PRC or China, in utter disregard of the law. In fact, yung pinakauli nating insidente dito ay ang June 17 incident wherein illegal excessive use of force were applied and resulted to the injury of one of our sailors, the loss of his thumb. While we stand our ground and protect what is ours, we do not seek escalation, but rather choose the professional and peaceful handling of the situation. Our soldiers and sailors are disciplined and exercise maximum self-control and restraint. But make no mistake about it. If we are attacked, we will defend and fight back with all our might. Sabi pa nga ni General Douglas MacArthur, no, sa kabayanihan at katapangan ng ating mga sundalong Pilipino, give me 10,000 soldiers and I will conquer the world. Therefore, our call to de-escalate tensions in the West Philippine Sea is a proof of our commitment to fostering regional peace and stability through diplomacy and constructive dialogue. The 9th bilateral mechanism meeting last July 2 has already yielded positive results in terms of reducing the tension in Ayungin Shoal. Only in Ayungin Shoal. Because ang dalawang party ay nag-agree na pababain o pahupain natin ang tension dito. Well, it is our right to resupply our troops in BRP Sierra Madre. And we will always do that as guided by our President. In our discussion and dialogue with the PRC, we would like to assure our people that our national interests shall remain paramount and our national security will never be prejudiced. Our sovereignty and sovereign rights will never be compromised. Nakalatag din yung ating mga patakaran at hakbangin upang mapagtibay natin ang pag-aari sa West Philippine Sea. Ito ay ang right mix combination ng ating legal, diplomatic, information, socio-economic, and military law enforcement efforts. True peace, however, cannot be built out of weakness or might. Lasting peace and stability are forged where there is respect for the sovereign equality of all nations and there is adherence to rule-based international order. The West Philippine Sea is ours, and the fishes, marine, aquatic, and all the rich natural resources belong to the Filipino people. Ang West Philippine Sea, atin ito.
Thank you, Secretary Año. And President Marcos also mentioned, no guerrilla fronts remain active across the country today. Only 7 weakened groups remain to be dismantled, and they are the subject of focused operations. But along with the assertion of government might, we also offer peace, development, interventions, and reintegration programs for those who have returned to the fold of the law. Lieutenant General Gerlan, aside from fighting rebels, we know that the AFP is also very much involved in many development activities in the countryside. Could you please tell us about the AFP's efforts to win the peace and promote development in conflict-affected areas?
Yes, the Armed Forces of the Philippines has been pursuing the campaign plan of the Armed Forces, which is to defeat the enemies of the state. However, it doesn't mean only defeating the enemies by conducting operations, but we also conduct civil military operations and other operations to support this. In fact, we are even very involved in the peace efforts of the government. That's why the AFP has been pursuing the full surrender of the former rebels. And since 2022 up to the present, we have already 6,921 former rebels of the CPP-NPA, and also 578 former violent terrorists who have also surrendered, and they are given livelihood, and they're being integrated into the community through all the efforts of our units in the fields. Also, aside from the peace efforts, we have also the amnesty program where the AP also is very active. That's why now we already have 578 personalities who have applied for the amnesty program. The AFP always will pursue the path to peace. That's why we always asking those remaining rebels to surrender peacefully so that we can ensure their peaceful integration back into the communities.
Thank you, General Roland. Let us now move to the next statement during the President's SONA. We have noted an overall decrease in crime rate and an improvement in crime solution efficiency, but this is not enough. Our law enforcers need to earn the trust of our people. Police Lieutenant General John Michael Dubria, what are the PNP's efforts in ridding its ranks of police personnel involved in illegal drugs?
Okay. Good afternoon. Walang video, wala tayong video. Yes, good afternoon. Ma'am, the Philippine National Police is intensifying its internal cleansing program regarding our personnel involved in illegal drugs or any irregularity, not only in illegal drugs. We do not tolerate these personnel who are involved in any criminal activities, and we charge them appropriately, either administratively or criminally.
Thank you. Let us now discuss this quote by the President. Our police, military, and Coast Guard undergo continuous capacity building and asset upgrading so that they are better able to preserve the peace and defend our territory. Kindly expound on this. This is for Commandant Gavan.
Yeah, I'd like to start from the whole statement, the context of the message of the President itself, which in gist have defined the three elements that makes the Coast Guard as it is today. He made mention about the need for us to have the baselines law, the maritime zones law, and the archipelagic sea lanes law. He also made mention that the way for us is to solve the issue in the West Philippine Sea, but we will not yield. That defines what are the needs of the Coast Guard in capacitating itself in order to pursue that careful balance between the two requirements. We will not yield, but at the same time, we must be able to pursue peaceful resolution of the issue. So the Philippine Coast Guard has since embarked on massive training of its people on the law of the sea. For most, we have to know the law to be able to pursue rules-based approach. We have also pursued better discipline system in the Coast Guard to make sure that everybody adheres to the rule of law and the way we do things at sea. Alam niyo po, mahirap mag-enforce sa isang environment na inaalon ka at hinaharas ka ng iyong mga katunggali. So we really need to have the Coast Guard have that very defined sense of discipline. We have also defined how we have to organize ourselves. So in the past several months, when the President has assumed a control of the country as the Commander-in-Chief, we developed task forces to make sure that our command and control system is better aligned with the guidance of the President. So far, the three elements have been met. It is now very clear to us where we should operate. It is now very clear to us what we should do. And it is now very clear for us what we should achieve. So the SONA of the President is really very material for us.
Thank you, Commandant Gavan. Let's move on to PAGCOR. Of course, we have to talk about this quote because the president was met with a standing ovation in this part. Effective today, all pogos are banned. I hereby instruct PAGCOR to wind down and cease the operations of pogos by the end of the year. For Chairman Al Tenco, how can the PAGCOR collaborate with law enforcement agencies to run after illegal pogos?
Well, good afternoon, Daphne. Actually, even prior to the announcement of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. in the last SONA, PAGCOR, in coordination with the ILG, the PAOK-TF, the NBI, the Bureau of Immigration, the Department of Justice, and the Department of Labor and Employment have already started working together to run after all these illegal POGO operators. I just want to make this clear. Prior to my assumption as chairman and CEO of PAGCOR, the previous board of PAGCOR had authorized and issued a total of 298 licenses. And when I assumed office and seeing that more than majority of these companies were not involved in any gaming operations, but rather were involved in criminal activities such as scamming, credit card fraud, you had investment frauds, you had love match fraud. We then decided that it was time for us to move in and purge the licensees who were violating all the rules, regulations, and guidelines that have been issued by PAGCOR. In fact, first thing that we did after finding out that most of these licensees were not following any of the guidelines and rules of PAGCOR was to immediately declare them all as being classified as probationary in status. And from 298, we were able to bring the number down to about 75. And the 75 already included the service provider, well, the licensees, which now total about 44. Of the 44, 3 are currently suspended. And then we have support services or service providers that are close to about 19. And we have this new classification of 14 SBPOs. So what I just want to emphasize is that prior to the announcement, there were already efforts being made by all these government agencies that are involved in the said operations. And because of the President's instruction to PAGCOR last Monday in the SONA, we again we are all making sure that starting this coming week, we will be meeting again to discuss what we will have to do to be able to wind down the operations of all these companies. And I just want to emphasize that yesterday, we were already cooperating and meeting with the congressional leaders because there is also a congressional act that has to be made, and I'm scheduled to meet the Department of Labor and Employment next week in my discussions with Secretary Benny Linguesma, primarily because there will be about 40,000 Filipino workers that will be affected by this said closure by the end of the year. And the DILG, who is present today, we are going to continue our town hall meetings with the different local government units. In fact, last Saturday, we were in Region 3 in Clark to talk to the local government officials of Regions 1, 2, and 3. And then Saturday afternoon, we were in Camp Crame and we met the LGU officials of Metro Manila and that of Region 4 and Region 4A. So this will be a collaboration of all the other government agencies that are needed or that need to cooperate with PAGCOR so that we will be successful in implementing the order of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.
Thank you, Chairman Tanco. The President Marcos also said that in Marawi, the rehabilitation and rebuilding continue under the supervision now of the Office of the President. Our focus remains on restoring energy, water, and livable communities. This is for the Office of the Presidential Advisor for Marawi Rehabilitation, or OPAM-R, Secretary Nasser Pangandaman. Could you please expound more about the projects on rehabilitating and rebuilding Marawi?
Yes, Madam. Yes, first and foremost, magandang hapon po, Daphne, at sa ating mga kababayan. Diyan po, kami po natutuwa at nagpapasalamat sa ating mahal na Pangulo nabanggit po sa kanyang SONA ang tuloy-tuloy po na rehabilitasyon, rebuilding ng Marawi City. Just a short background on this, ito po ang rehabilitation ng Marawi City ay nag-umpisa 2017. Pagkatapos po ng Marawi
Sorry,
City.
Secretary Pangandaman, let's...
Ito po ay pinangunahan mo ng urban development. Ito po ay ang pamalaan ng rehabilitation. So, ganun po yung pag-umpisa po ng rehabilitation ng Marawi City. At tayo po ay nagpapasalamat sa ating mga Pangulo dahil nag-issue po siya ng administrative order 14 na nililipat po niya ang rehabilitation ng Marawi City directly under the supervision ng Office of the President. And therefore, ito po ay sinusupervise po ng aking tanggapan at nakita po namin na meron po tatlong, among others po, meron po tayo nakitang tatlong critical issues na dapat pong i-address. Ito po ay tungkol po sa energy, o papapailaw po sa Marawi City. Pangalawa, yung tubig. At pangatlo po yung housing issue sa Marawi City. So yan po yung tatlong direktiba ng ating mahal na Pangulo natin pong tinututukan ngayon para po ma-rehabilitate po natin ang ating ang Marawi City. Nais ko pong bagitin dito sana alam po niyo noong 2017, ang isa sa mga naunang national leaders po na pumunta sa Marawi City ay ating mahal na Pangulo. Siya po ay matatapos lang po ng eleksyon noon nung siya po ay tumakbong Vice President. At noong 2017 po, nagkakaroon pa lang po ng clearing operations doon sa Marawi City. Siya po ay bumisita doon at nakita po niya yung extent ng devastation doon po sa city. That's why siya po ay gusto po niyang tutukan ito. Kaya po linipat po niya ang supervision ng rehabilitation, rebuilding ng Marawi City under the direct supervision of the Office of the President.
Thank you, Secretary Pangandaman. Of course, that was your update about the rehabilitation and rebuilding of Marawi, focused on restoring energy, water, and livable communities. Thank you, Secretary. And now, President Marcos Jr. also emphasized our police, military, and Coast Guard undergo continuous capacity building and asset upgrading so that they are better able to preserve the peace and defend our territory sa ating buong sandatahang lakas sa Coast Guard at sa ating mga mangingisda sa West Philippine Sea. Tanggapin niyo ang taus-pusong pagsasalamat ng buong bansa dahil sa inyong ginagawang pagmatyag at sakripisyo. That was a beautiful statement by the President that really, I think, touched a lot of people. And he said it a lot better than I read it, but it was beautiful. This is for DOTR Secretary Jaime Bautista. Does the DOTR have initiatives to spread consciousness and knowledge on the West Philippine Sea to our people, especially the youth?
Thank you, Daphne, for that question. No? You know, the DOTR and the Philippine Coast Guard have initiatives to inform the youth of the many issues regarding the West Philippine Sea. No? Commodore Admiral Gaban can even expound on this. They have projects that involve even health consciousness. They have projects. They even have this comics project of information, no? And I'd like Admiral Gaban to please expound on this. No?
Thank you, Secretary, sir. Yes, the Philippine Coast Guard has embarked in several programs, including, number one, we have this focused social media campaign. We reach out the youth because we know that they are into social media more than us, the older generation. So we also embark on what we call the comics initiative. We have this, ang mga kwento ni Teacher June. This will be distributed to the schools. So we believe that we should start them young. Dapat alam ng mga kabataan kung ano ang West Philippine Sea, bata pa lang siya. We are also thinking about developing a coloring book for the preschoolers. So that early, dapat alam na nila kung ano yung West Philippine Sea. As you know, we are only as good as the support of the people that we receive. We have also embarked, alam po natin lahat siguro to, yung takbo para sa West Philippine Sea. So all the runners are into it, but in doing so, they are also made aware that they have to do their share in defending the West Philippine Sea.
Thank you for that update, Commandant Gavan and Secretary Bautista. I'm going to look at that later. It looks very good. A nice book for young people. Let's move on now to some questions from the media. I will call on GMA 7's JP Soriano.
Thanks, Daphne. Good afternoon, secretaries and sirs. My question is for you, Charles, and to NSA Anyo. while the Philippines is trying to navigate a peaceful resolution in the West Philippine Sea, specifically in the Ayungin Shoal, does the agreement with China stipulate that the Philippines agrees to any provisions regarding site verification and restrictions on bringing in construction materials at the BRP Sierra Madre? Would you be able to provide some clarity on this, Secretary Anyo and Yusek Jose?
May I answer the question?
Please repeat your question.
Oh, okay. Sir,
No.
this-
Answer the question.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, well, first of all, this is not an agreement, but this is what we call an understanding, an exchange of notes, where there is a common accepted parameter for both sides. And we agreed, both sides agreed that detention will be reduced in Ayungin Shoal to prevent skirmishes, to prevent anything that may lead to injury or harm to our soldiers or to anyone. So there was a sort of comment or publication or statement from the Chinese side about telling certain provisions. Well, I'm telling you that that is not accurate. That is really false because there's no such kind of on-site inspection. What the two sides agreed are really a common understanding that the RORE shall proceed with instruction from the Chinese side. This is to ensure that there will be no untoward incident. And basically, the principles are generic. No? But on disclosing the content of the common understanding, it has to be agreed upon by the sides from the government and from the PRC. What I understand is it should not be issued in public unless there is consent from both sides. But one thing that I can say, there is no prejudice or compromise in our sovereignty and our sovereign rights claim. Our national interests are never compromised. And we did not agree on anything that would undermine our position in the West Philippine Sea. But as a peace-loving nation that adheres to the rule of law, it is but proper to support this particular initiative of coming up with this common understanding to just reduce the tension in the Ayungin Shoal. In the coming days, we will see the result of this very positive development, and hopefully this will become a regular activity of resupplying our troops in BRP Sierra Madre, and it is our right to resupply our troops in BRP Sierra Madre, who our soldiers are valiantly defending and ensuring that our position in the West Philippine Sea remain fixed and unassailable.
Thank you, NSA Anyo, for explaining the contents of the diplomatic note. May I just briefly shift to another topic? This question is addressed to Chairman Tenko. Following the President Marcos's order to ban POGOs, Senator Risa Ontiveros wants clarification on whether IGLs, which are reportedly or allegedly being used to rebrand POGOs, will also be shut down. What's your take on this, sir? Should IGLs be included when President Marcos's directive to be shut down within a year? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Well, the instruction of President Marcos is very clear. PAGCOR has been instructed to wind down the operations of all. Very clear po yun. And I just want to clarify that the difference between the POGO is the POGOs were the companies that we purged. I mentioned earlier, we had 298 when I assumed office. Today, we have, including service providers and this new classification of SBPOs, we only have close to about 70. So what really happened is when we purged the list of licensees, it was very unfortunate that those that did not have any license or legal capacity or legal authority to do business anymore still continued to do so. And that is the cause of all this bad publicity that the country is getting today. No, I think that should be made clear. Now, IGLs were those that were reissued or where their licenses were renewed. So it was not, IGLs are not there because they were just merely rebranded. Of the 298, they were the deserving, legitimate companies who were never involved in any criminal activity. Unfortunately, because of the order of the President, even those companies, many of whom are owned by foreign investors, are affected by this order. So I was in Congress yesterday in a hearing, the Committee of Games and the Committee of Public Order. I made it clear, and today, this afternoon, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity. The instruction of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is very clear. PAGCOR, you are instructed to wind down the operations of all. First of all, I cannot wind down the operations of those who are operating illegally because they're not in my jurisdiction anymore. So, very clear po yun. So, I do not know where this news is coming from. There is confusion, and I thank you for giving me an opportunity this afternoon to clarify the matter. There is also one, I'll take advantage of this. There is a report coming from Maki Pulido. I think she's part of GMA 7 group that I read and that's going around. That I, as chairman of PAGCOR, am going to lobby for the retention of 12 POGOs. I just want to make a categorical denial about this. When I was asked, I don't even know if it was Maki who asked, but as I was entering the halls of Congress yesterday, I was asked what will happen to the 40,000 workers who will be affected. I said, unfortunately, they will have to go. But I said there's one segment now that we license, and I'm referring to the special BPOs. And these special BPOs that PAGCOR license are BPO companies that are just like the BPO companies that are giving employment to maybe 2 million Filipinos today. And they are not involved in any gaming activity. Hindi po sila tumatanggap ng taya. They are not involved in any betting activity. So, I just thought, close to 10,000 workers are in that segment. We call it the special BPO. So, I was just thinking maybe it wouldn't be bad if I appeal that maybe these 12 can be considered as legal and will not be closed. Because they are not. They are basically doing customer service work for companies that are based in the United States, Canada, Australia, and Europe. So, I just want to make that clear because there were news reports in media today that I was going to request or I was going to lobby for these 12 companies. Actually, it should be 14 companies. So, gusto lang po ng liwanagin yon. Pero other than that, if even for this 12 or 14, the instruction will be to already wind down, I had made my position very clear. This was even weeks before or prior to SONA. I will follow and execute any instruction that will be given me by the President of the Republic of the Philippines. And last Monday, the instruction was very clear. I'm telling everyone this afternoon, I will follow and execute his instructions.
Okay.
Also, ang instruction po niya, maliwanag naman, up to December 31, 2024. So, there are also news reports going around that the Bureau of Immigration, I don't know how true, I intend to get in touch with Commissioner Norman Tansinco because nakalagay po sa news reports, binibigyan na lang daw ng Bureau of Immigration ng 59 days from today ang lahat ng foreign workers. I would like to clarify this matter. Again, I'm not sure if the news going around is true. But I just want maybe to clarify this matter in a discussion with Commissioner Tansinco and tell him the instruction of the President is to give these companies up to December 31, 2024.
Thank you.
Salamat po.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, JP Soriano, and thank you, Chairman Tenko. Thank you for all of that clarification. Okay, we have more questions. This is for the DILG. What are the marching orders of Secretary Abalos to the PNP following PBBM's pronouncement on his bloodless anti-illegal drug campaign, if there are any?
Yes. Well, as I mentioned before, the marching order of Secretary Ben-Hur is one that is focused on the dignity of human life. We have our Buhay Ingatan Drogay Ayawan program. And one component of that, which I'd like to highlight, is our revitalized Pulis sa Barangay program. That is where in a problem barangay, the DILG will, or rather the PNP, with the help of DILG, will embed a contingent of police inside that barangay. They'll rent a house in that barangay and then they'll live there, they'll sleep there, they'll eat there. They'll become one with the community. And in doing so, the community will feel greater trust in the police, will be able to report more freely. They will be able to root out crime within that particular area. So that's one example of how, under the guidance of President Bongbong Marcos and Secretary Ben-Hur, the DILG and the PNP are trying to create a police force that is more responsive and community-centered. We've experienced before, of course, there's a mistrust by certain sectors in society of the police, and we want to break down that mistrust and create greater community engagement. Thank you, Daphne.
Thank you. We have a question here for the Department of Justice. Going back to our criminal justice system, President Marcos was all praises for the country's criminal justice system reforms. Do you see the need to do more to further improve the system, and what are your plans for the next succeeding years?
Yes, we do, Daphne. In fact, the issuance of and signing of the DOJ NPS rules on criminal in preliminary investigation and inquest proceedings is just the first step. The next step would be a greater plan or greater vision, which is to actually rationalize and put in order the practice of law in the Department of Justice. And that is also to institutionalize this time across the board the case build-up rule, which incidentally already resulted to a 93% conviction rate with respect to case build-up cases that were decided by the courts. And on the flip side of that, which is also a good development, 26% of the cases filed were referred back to the law enforcement agencies or to the complainants for the submission of additional pieces of evidence, because in the minds of the assisting prosecutor, the cases are not ready for filing. This development cuts across through all the 5 pillars of the criminal justice system. It lessens the number of cases handled by the law enforcement, and it lowers the docket of the prosecutors and the courts. It also eventually leads to lesser number of persons to be detained. And finally, it would lead to a better and more peaceful community in our midst. But the approach is really to do all of these things, all the areas of law enforcement, Bucor, PPA, the Pardons and Probation Administration, BI, LRA. There are certain efforts that are being undertaken to weed out elements that are not performing, or we feel that they are not at all doing their job. And one of the important things, which is also related to the digitization of the processes in the Department of Justice under the NDIS, the National Justice Information System, is to put in order the records of LRA, the records of BI, the records of NBI, and all of the attached agencies. That means that we would be able to then weed out the continuing problems relating to double titling that are also a source of violence and killings in our country.
Thank you, Undersecretary. We have a question for the DFA. President Marcos mentioned in his SONA that the Philippines will continue to assert its sovereign rights over the West Philippine Sea. He particularly mentioned about diplomatic channels and mechanisms under rules-based orders. Ano po ba ang mga status ng mga protest ng Pilipinas against China as far as the West Philippine Sea is concerned?
Well, I don't have the exact number of the diplomatic protests that we have filed, but I would like to emphasize that it's very important to file these notes verbal addressed to the well, here the DFA, we addressed them to the Chinese embassy in Manila, because if we fail to do that, silence means we acquiesce to what China is doing. Although some quarters might say that these diplomatic protests are pointless, but I would disagree to that. It's very important that we do whatever we can in order to register our objection to what the Chinese are doing in the West Philippine Sea. Thank you.
Thank you. This is for the DND. Narinig natin ang mga pronouncement ng Pangulo sa kanyang SONA ang tungkol sa West Philippine Sea. Inaasahan ba nating magbabago ang approach ng Pilipinas sa issue na ito? Or kung mapapanatili natin ang anuman ang nasimulan na ng administrasyon?
The efforts to manage tensions in the West Philippine Sea, as stated by the DFA, are undertaken by them. And it is in accordance with international rules-based order. It is clear that the President has manifested his intentions that the tensions be managed and de-escalated without compromising our position. At klaro po sa ating lahat ito. Para po sa Departamento o sa Kagawaran ng Tanggulang Pambansa, we are clear that we have to support and preserve the territorial integrity and sovereignty, including the sovereign rights of our country. In order for the rules-based international order to survive, we must have a credible deterrent to protect and defend our sovereignty. sovereign rights and territorial integrity. At ang kagawaran ng tanggulang pambansa will remain focused on our programs to preserve the territorial integrity, which, as I stated a while ago, is the implementation of our CADC, yung ating pong modernization program, and the defense transformation. The diplomatic channels will be very, very innovative, as I believe the DFA will exert all efforts to resolve the tensions diplomatically. But one thing is clear, it should be in accordance with the rules-based order, and yun pong kailangan ma-preserve natin ang ating territorial integrity, ang ating sovereignty, at ating sovereign rights. Maraming po salamat.
Thank you, Undersecretary De Leon. This is the question for the National Security Advisor. Ano ang mga marching order ni President Marcos for the ONSA?
Well, first of all, ang ating mandato ay to ensure that all national security interests are protected, and it should be always across all agencies, including LGUs and including concerned citizens. So meaning to say, we have to protect our interests and national security. Now on the West Philippine Sea, as I have said, it should always be the right mix combination of different instruments of national power. We should apply both diplomatic and legal, information and transparency, socio-economic, so that we can develop our economic resiliency, and also maritime, military, military and law enforcement, so that we will protect our fishermen. We will guard our sovereignty and sovereign rights to prevent any illegal activities by any claimant within the West Philippine Sea. So tuloy-tuloy tayo dito, and all other aspects of national security, well, to include energy security, food and water security, climate change. So lahat ito ay pinag-uutos ng ating Pangulo to make sure that our Filipinos will enjoy the life where we are practicing freedom, democracy, and our way of life is assured and protected.
Thank you, Secretary Año. Peace, freedom, and democracy, we're certainly in good hands with you. Thank you. We have a question here. This is for the PNP, the AFP, and the Philippine Coast Guard. Let's go back to what the President said and when he praised law enforcers for improvements in the crime solution and efficiency. But he said that that is not enough. The President also stressed that you have to continue to earn the trust and confidence of the Filipino. How do you respond to this? Let's start with Philippine Coast Guard.
Well, recent surveys would say that the Filipinos believe that we are doing the right things right. I think it is 8 in every 10 Filipinos believe that we are doing what we should be doing. But to further sustain and enhance that, we intend to further capacitate our people to be more adherent to rules and the procedures that we have to observe while we are doing our things at sea. We are pursuing measured transparency in certain times, or full transparency as the situation requires so, because the people deserves to know what we are doing. Because through that, we also believe that they can be the fiscalizers to remind us whether or not we are doing the right thing. Law enforcement is enforcing the rules defined by the people. So it also requires us to inform them how well we have enforced the law. It takes two to tango, they say.
Thank you, sir. From the PNP, may we know your response to this?
Yes, ma'am. From the PNP side, we are still intensifying our internal cleansing operations against our own personnel. We police our ranks in the hope with the intention of gaining the trust and confidence from the community. Actually, we are intensifying our managing police operations, and trying to do our mandated task, which is crime prevention and solution. And if in case a crime transpires, we try to solve the crime. Kung ang pagbabasayan po ay crime statistics, we have some data here coming from the period July of 2023 to June 30 of 2024, wherein we were able to register 198,584 incidents. This is significantly lower by 14,666 incidents, or 6.88% compared to the past period, wherein 213,250 incidents or crime incidents transpired. We also registered 12.54% decrease in focus crimes. Ang focus crimes po natin, ma'am, meron po tayong 8 focus crimes. We have murder, we have homicide, theft, robbery, physical injuries, rape, carnapping. Maiugnay natin ang pagbaba ng crime data sa ating enhanced managing police operations, wherein we always conduct to make sure that our units on the field do their job. Meron pa tayong mga instructions coming from the Chief PNP and reminders that all personnel of the PNP must be alert and must be disciplined. And of course, if in case we should always be ready to respond to any calls for police assistance. We must have police presence in crime-prone areas, wherein we were able to identify crime-prone areas through our crime statistics, crime clock, and crime mapping. While these statistics reflect a significant improvement in our crime rate and solution efficiency, we acknowledge that this is not enough. We need to continue earning the trust of our people by fostering strong relationship. Ito po yung here where our police community relations comes in. We have to maintain visible and proactive presence. So for any report of any involvement of any police personnel in crimes or irregular activities, please do not think that all of your policemen are involved in illegal activities. If an information will come to our awareness, we take appropriate action, we file appropriate cases, because we do not tolerate these irregularities, because it erodes the trust and confidence, and the people or in the community will never depend on us again. So law enforcement is also related to our economy. If an area is peaceful and that area is guarded by your law enforcers, we believe the local, domestic, the foreign tourists and investors will come in, and it will really affect our economy and uplift our economic conditions. So our efforts include regular community dialogues, crime prevention seminars, and partnership programs with local government units and non-governmental organizations. Our commitment to continuous improvement and public service remains unwavering as we strive to build a safer and more trusting society. So that is coming from your Philippine National Police. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have the AFP. Again, how would you earn the trust and confidence of the Filipino people?
First of all, the Air Force of the Philippines is very inspired and thankful on the words of the President during the SONA. And as such, for the past years, we have already been maintaining a very high satisfaction rating because of the professionalism and discipline of the members of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. However, we are not going to rest on our laurels, and continue to strive to be more professional and disciplined armed force, especially so that we are transitioning our focus from internal security operations to territorial defense. The more we would show a resolve to fight for the sovereignty of our country and also defend the people and the state.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Maraming salamat sa ating panelists at saka sa ating mga kaibigan sa media. But we will now give time to our panelists for your final remarks. We start with the Department of Transportation Secretary Jaime Bautista.
Again, good afternoon, Daphne. No? The Department of Transportation fully supports the Philippine Coast Guard. No? Philippine Coast Guard is an attached agency of the department since 1997. It has the mission of enforcing maritime laws, maritime search and rescue, protection of maritime environment. And for them to be able to meet their missions, we support them in terms of modernizing their resources. No? Resources meaning personnel, which is one of the most important assets of the Coast Guard. No? We're helping them to increase the number of employees. Now more than 30,000, and we're looking at hiring 4,000 more within the year, no? So that we'll be able to have at least one Coast Guard per every kilometer of our coastline. No? So we are working closely with the Department of Budget to allow us to continue the hiring of Coast Guard employees. No? In terms of other asset modernization, we're working with the Philippine Coast Guard to acquire more floating assets and more flying assets. No? Floating assets means big ships. No? We just had approval to purchase 597 MRRBs. No? We already have we already signed the loan agreement with JICA on this, and it's now on the procurement process. No? Procurement means it's a repeat order because we're getting the same vessel from the same supplier. No? We're also working with Coast Guard to increase its flying assets. No? We only have right now 2 helicopters, but we need more to be able to support the mission of Coast Guard. We're also looking at getting more past patrol vessels. No? We're looking at a 35-meter past patrol vessels so that we can support their operations not only in the West Philippine Sea, but in all other seashores of our country. So we're working with them in training our employees, working with them on getting their permanent headquarters. And we look forward to the support of our friends from Congress and Senate to fund all these projects of the Philippine Coast Guard.
Thank you, Secretary Bautista. From the Office of the Presidential Advisor for Marawi Rehabilitation, Secretary Nasser Pangandaman.
Again, salamat, Daphne. I would like to add na one of the areas that we're looking at is yung akibat po kasi nitong rehabilitation is the compensation aspect of rehabilitation. And so we are closely discussing this with the Marawi Compensation Board. In fact, in the next few days, there will be a meeting between the Marawi Compensation Board. This will be hosted by Secretary Lucas Barsamin and the Office of the Special Assistant to the President, Secretary Anton Lagdameo, to look at paano po natin mapabilis yung tulong natin sa mga more than 14,000 claimants po. Ito po ay yung mga application ng claims po ng mga ating IDPs sa Marawi. So this will be a very, very comprehensive approach. I would like to assure our people in Marawi that despite of the challenges, this will not eliminate our resolve to push for the immediate rebuilding, rehabilitation, and redevelopment of Marawi City. So, gaya po ng nasabi ng ating mahal na Pangulo, ito po ay ating tututukan at kaya po ito po ilinagay niya mismo sa opisina ng Office of the President. At yung nagaya po na nabanggit ko kanina, we'll be focusing on restoring energy in Marawi City. Maibalik po natin yung tubig doon po para sa ating mga kababayan, and of course, yung kulang pa po na housing requirements ng ating mga kababayan doon. So maraming salamat po sa pagkakataong ito at nabigyan po kami ng oras para ipahayag po ang taus-pusong pasasalamat namin at sa salamat namin sa ating mahal na Pangulo na kanya pong mismong supervise ito pong rehabilitation, itong rebuilding at redevelopment ng Marawi City. Maraming salamat.
Thank you, Secretary Pangandaman. National Security Advisor, Secretary Eduardo Año.
Thank you very much, Daphne. First of all, we would like to thank President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. for his very clear guidance and directions that he has provided through the State of the Nation address. We are more determined than ever to fight for our rights and interests. We at the National Security Council, with the help of crucial agencies, are ever committed to help the President fulfill his pledge to the Filipino people, not only for the West Philippine Sea, but to the overall scope of national security. May I thus take the opportunity to thank and commend the agencies who have been our steady partner in these pursuits, contributing to the protection and advancement of national security and national interest. They are the following. We have the National Task Force for the West Philippine Sea, National Intelligence Board, the National Task Force to End the Local Communist Armed Conflict, the Anti-Terrorism Council, and the National Cybersecurity Interagency Committee, who stand willing and ready, as we have always been, to employ, bolster, and synergize a wide array of strategies and all instruments of national power to protect and safeguard at all costs our national security. Also, I extend my appreciation and congratulations to the Armed Forces of the Philippines, the Philippine National Police, and the Philippine Coast Guard for their dedication to their duties. Your sacrifices, assistance, and support never go unnoticed. As we continue to pour efforts in ensuring our national security while upholding our principles, I'd just like to emphasize that this is not just a matter of national policy, but we are doing it because it directly impacts the lives of Filipinos all across the archipelago. Indeed, we cannot rest easy, and we cannot afford not to give a fight, and we cannot afford to fail our fellow men. Our goal is not just to protect our sovereignty, but to ensure a stable and prosperous future for all Filipinos and all the generations that will come after us. Our aim is not only to safeguard ours, but also to promote and advance security and stability in the region and the world. Sa ating mga kababayan, let us remain united and devoted in our resolve to forward and preserve our national security interest for a much safer, more peaceful, and more progressive Philippines we dream of. Maraming salamat po sa inyo lahat at kabuhay ang bagong Pilipinas.
Thank you, Secretary Año. And now we hear from Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation Chairman Alejandro Tenco.
Well, thank you, Daphne. Well, PAGCOR's main thrust really, aside from regulating gaming operations in the Philippines, is to be a major partner of the Philippines in nation building. And what I would like to assure the Filipino people is today we are truly trying our best to be able to generate the much needed revenue for PAGCOR, which in turn we will be 70% more or less of its main revenue will be given back to as contributions to nation building. As of the first half of the year, PAGCOR has given back or contributed close to about 35 billion pesos to nation building. We continue to fund the National Treasury, the Philippine Sports Commission, the Universal Health Care Act, the Dangerous Drugs Board, the other projects that are very beneficial to the Filipino people. I can assure all that we are against the criminal activities being perpetrated by the illegal POGOs that we have purged, and please be assured that we will definitely exert all the efforts to be able to really take out the entire illegal POGOs that have given bad publicity not only to our country but to everywhere around the world. So then again, I'd like to thank all of you for the opportunity you have given us to explain our side about these major issues. So please be assured that we are here to be one of the biggest partners of our nation-building efforts under the administration of President Ferdinand Romualdez Marcos Jr. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Chairman Tenco. Department of Foreign Affairs Under Secretary Charles Jose.
On behalf of the Department of Foreign Affairs, I express my appreciation to the Presidential Communications Office for this opportunity to expound on the President's pronouncements in his State of the Nation address. It is an honor to share the stage with esteemed colleagues from member agencies of the Good Governance, Peace and Order, and Security Cluster. Guided by the foreign policy pronouncements of the President, the DFA has sought to leverage existing alliances and forge new partnerships in pursuit of the Philippine national interest. In the West Philippine Sea, the Philippine position remains firm. We will continue to assert our sovereignty, sovereign rights, and jurisdiction in our maritime zones and find ways forward through diplomacy and dialogue pursuant to what the President articulated during the SONA. We are committed to the peaceful settlement of disputes through international law. Our actions will continue to be firmly anchored on the rules-based international order that is governed by international law, particularly UNCLOS and the 2016 Arbitral Award on the South China Sea. We are of the view that the only sincere way to de-escalate tensions is through established diplomatic channels, such as the Philippines-China bilateral consultation mechanism on the South China Sea. The 9th BCM allowed us to articulate our clear and unwavering positions in the West Philippine Sea, South China Sea. At the same time, it provided the momentum for the series of consultations that led to the recently concluded arrangement on the principles and approaches that will be observed in the Philippines' conduct of lawful and routine rotation and resupply missions in Ayungin Shoal. These are the diplomatic paths we take to de-escalate tensions and manage disputes. Our advocacies have also found resonance in the multilateral arena. We are proud of the strides we have made on the global stage. These include the recent selection of the Philippines to host the board of the fund responding to loss and damage, hosting the third major climate finance mechanism under the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change is a duty that we take seriously. Through this mechanism, the Philippines will continue to leverage its leadership in climate action and its goodwill with developing nations in promoting climate equity. Also, the UN Human Rights Council adopted the Philippine-led resolution titled Promoting and Protecting the Enjoyment of Human Rights of Seafarers. This resolution is the first ever on this subject to be introduced and adopted in the UNHRC. This is a victory in the Philippines' quest to protect the welfare of almost 2 million seafarers, over a quarter of whom are Filipinos. In our home region, the Philippines looks forward to chairing ASEAN in 2026, as ASEAN is a core expression of Philippine diplomacy. Preparations are being undertaken by the National Organizing Council to ensure the orderly and seamless hosting by the Philippines of this landmark event. On the domestic front, the DFA also strives to improve the delivery of consular services to make them more efficient and accessible to the transacting public. Among our milestones in this area are the reduction of passport processing times, the enactment of the new passport law, as well as the e-visa and e-apostille systems. At the core of our mandate is to look after the interests and welfare of the Filipino diaspora. We continue to provide assistance to our nationals and facilitate negotiations of bilateral labor agreements to improve their well-being. We also help influence policy on migration at the global stage against the backdrop of our 10 million strong diaspora. Rest assured that in the pursuit of the national interest, the DFA will continue to strengthen national security, contribute to economic growth, and protect the interests and welfare of overseas Filipinos through the strategic conduct of diplomacy. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Undersecretary Jose. Now we will hear from the Department of Interior and Local Government Undersecretary Lord Villanueva.
Thank you, Daphne. One motto of Secretary Benhur Abalos of the DILG is Gawa, Hindi Salita. And that's been a great guiding principle of the DILG and its attached agencies as we've done our work in these past few years of the administration. And that means we focus on concrete, measurable, and objective achievements. And earlier we heard about how we've achieved record amounts in the number of drugs seized. We've achieved reduction, a measurable reduction in the volume of crime. And on the side of good governance and public safety, one example I'd like to highlight is that there's been a backlog for decades in that there have been 211 cities and municipalities that don't even have a single fire truck. And that state of affairs persisted for decades. And when Secretary Benhur Abalos came in within 2 years, this amount was reduced by more than half, from 211 to just around 80 local government units, cities and municipalities without a fire truck. And we expect to make further strides in drastically reducing that number before the end of the year. So that's Gawa, Hindi Salita, the motto of our secretary. And rest assured that the DILG, together with the PNP, the Bureau of Jail, and the Bureau of Fire, and all other attached agencies, will do its utmost to working with our other agencies in the national government and the various local governments towards striving for the dream that we all hold, the dream of a renewed nation, a bagong Pilipinas. Thank you, Daphne.
Thank you, Undersecretary Villanueva. Next, we'll hear from the Department of National Defense Undersecretary Angelito De Leon.
Sa ngalan po ng lihim ng Tanggulang Pambansa, si Secretary Gilberto Jr., kami po ay lubos nagpapasalamat sa pagkakataong ibinigay sa aming kagawaran sa paglahok sa talakayang ito. The marching orders of the President to transition from internal security to external defense are very clear. And we are remaining focused on all our programs, activities, and projects in order to comply with this directive. While much success has been attained in terms of addressing insurgency in our country, and as we transition to a post-conflict scenario, the Department and the Armed Forces of the Philippines shall remain supportive to the efforts of local government units, government agencies, and the people in general in addressing the root causes of insurgency in order to ensure that it shall not be able to come back and resurge. Kami po ay naniniwala na ang kapamamaraan na ating gagawin na pagtugon sa pangangailangan ng ating mga kababayan, lalong-lalo na po ang former rebels, ay tuluyan na nating mawawakasan ng insurgency. At sa ganun pong paraan, kami po ay patuloy na makakapag-focus sa development of our capabilities on external defense at in ensuring that territorial integrity, sovereignty, and sovereign rights are well protected. Lubos din po kami nagpapasalamat sa Pangulo at Commander-in-Chief, ang Pangulong Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. sa kanyang pamumuno, suporta at pagkilala sa Hukbong Sandatahang Pilipinas, Coast Guard, at ating mga fishermen sa parte po ng kagawaran. This raises the morale of the One Defense Team in order that we will be able to perform our mission. And finally, sa sambayanang Pilipino, patuloy po nating suportahan ang inyong kagawaran, ang Sandatahang Lakas ng Pilipinas, at iba pang sangay ng kagawaran, ang National Defense College of the Philippines, Office of Civil Defense, at Government Arsenal at Philippine Veterans Affairs Office upang mapagtupad namin ang aming mga tungkulin sa pagsisilbi sa bayan. Maraming salamat po at magandang hapon tayo.
Thank you, Undersecretary De Leon. Now we hear from Department of Justice Undersecretary Raul Vasquez.
Thank you very much, Daphne. And we have to thank the President Ferdinand Borbong Marcos Jr. for his guidance and directives as embodied in his recent SONA to the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice, under the leadership of Secretary Jesus Crispin Boying Remulla, remain committed as an active and strong member of the whole government approach in the improvement of law enforcement and administration of justice. Our mantra in the Department of Justice is real justice in real time. And we have tried to realize that by instituting reforms and initiatives that started with the case build-up rule, the reduction or rationalization of the bail system, the automatic dismissal of cases that don't have the necessary evidence in the lower courts, and it was realized recently with the signing of the Department of Justice and the National Prosecution Service rules on preliminary investigation and inquest proceedings. But this is not the only thing that we need to do, because the Department of Justice intends to rationalize the practice of law and the procedures in the Department of Justice with the issuance later on this year of the Department of Justice Rule of Procedure and Criminal Investigation and Prosecution. Incidentally, this is in line with the pledges made by the Philippines through Executive Secretary Lucas P. Bersamin in Geneva, whereby he pledged for, number one, the creation of a forensic institute which would help the prosecution and investigation of crimes, because it would then be a science-based, evidence-supported prosecution. But more importantly, it will also enable our law enforcement our medical practitioners, our doctors in the terms of calamity and natural disasters prevention as well as identification of victims. But more than that, the digitalization of the processes in the Department of Justice enabled us now, and we continue to improve on this by way of ensuring that our land registration system at the LRA, the immigration processes in the Bureau of Immigration, the investigation processes and prosecution arrangements in the National Bureau of Investigation and the National Prosecution Service are better coordinated, and that would be under the case build-up rule. As mentioned earlier, the case build-up resulted to a very significant increase in the number of convictions of those cases that were built up, meaning to say that were the quality cases filed in court, and of the cases decided by the court already that were subject of the case build-up, 93% was the conviction rate. But more importantly, 26% of the cases that were filed by the law enforcement agencies and or complainants were returned back or referred back to them for further investigation or securing of additional pieces of evidence. This translates to an assurance that the innocents did not be charged needlessly, and the persons would not be incarcerated without basis. We are committed to promote that our performance of our duties, all the attached agencies in the Department of Justice, as well as other agencies in the Interagency Special Committee on Human Rights Coordination, that we will perform our task under the prism of human rights promotion and protection. This is because we are now enabled by way of ownership of our human rights promotion and protection, because with the forthcoming end of the United Nations joint program, we will now have our own authority of ensuring that our agencies, our people on the ground would perform their duties and responsibilities under human rights promotions and protection prism. Thank you very much again, and good day.
Thank you, Undersecretary Vasquez. The Philippine Coast Guard Commandant, Coast Guard Admiral Ronnie Hill Gavan.
The fruit of the pudding is in the eating, they say. At the end of the day, we will be measured by the things we have done. That on marching orders of the President, for us to remain persistent at sea, to defend and protect the territory, the sovereignty and sovereign rights of the country. As we speak, even if it is even in the middle of a storm, Philippine Coast Guards are actually in the West Philippine Sea right now, ensuring that we will keep what we own while keeping the peace we all desire. And there can't be more meaningful and more inspiring message to hear than listening to a president in the State of a Nation address saying his gratitude to the people who mustered the courage to remain vigilant, to remain selfless, and to sacrifice to keep this country's territory whole. And for that, on behalf of the 31,000 Coast Guard personnel, I'd like to thank the President for recognizing the sacrifices of his Coast Guard. And with that inspiration we've heard from the President, the Philippine Coast Guard can just be even empowered to pursue the three things that we have to do to maintain peace, but being unyielding at the same time. One, with the clarification that we need to have the Maritime Zones Law and the AESL Law. Our requirement to pursue better enforcement of rules based on UNCLOS and the arbitral award can be better done. Second, we can better pursue the coastal state administration that we have to do to strengthen our presence on the islands. And third, with a peaceful approach that he has mandated amongst us, the Coast Guard can pursue the third element on Coast Guard diplomacy, which calls us to engage or cooperate with our neighbors to make sure that we can keep the stability and peace in the area we are operating on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Admiral Gavan. The Philippine National Police Chief, Police Lieutenant General John Michael Dubria.
Yes, ma'am. Correction. The Philippine National Police Chief is Police General Romel Francisco Marbil. And in his behalf, let me take this opportunity to thank all the participating agencies, government agencies that were instrumental in assuring or ensuring the success of the State of the Nation 2024 that just recently conducted or concluded. Among the member agencies are the Bureau of Fire, MMDA, the OCD, the Philippine Coast Guard, the local government units, and the JTF NCR of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, and among others. Of course, we believe that we have the saying that no man is an island. The maintenance of peace and order and security of a community or the country is a very big task, not only for the Philippine National Police. We need to have to apply the whole of nation approach. That's why, of course, we are very grateful for the cooperation and the collaboration of all the other government and non-government agencies, even the stakeholders, for cooperating. We may have implemented some security measures, such as the suspension of the permit to carry firearms outside residence in the NCR area, but we thank everybody for the consideration and for the understanding that it is very instrumental for the success of our security layout for State of the Nation address of His Excellency PBBM. So while we have different mandates and specific mandates between the Armed Forces, the Coast Guard, and the Philippine National Police, but then in the end, we all work together. We have this platform, the Joint Peace and Security Coordinating Council, wherein all of these member agencies, this triumvirate, we really focus on maintaining the peace and order of our country in general. So while the Philippine National Police have many challenges, we really extend our utmost gratitude to His Excellency President Bongbong Marcos for all the support that he has given and granted our organization, in the hope that we will be able to serve the public and our community better. So the PNP is still a work in progress. We still are in the effort of professionalizing and capacitating and empowering the individual PNP and the organization in the hope of giving a better service to the public. So in behalf of the Chief PNP, thank you and good afternoon to everyone.
Thank you, General Dubria. Next, we have the Acting Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, Lieutenant General Charlton Sean Garlan.
On behalf of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, I would like to thank our President and Commander-in-Chief, Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr., for the inspiration, the leadership, and the support he has always given to the Armed Forces of the Philippines. I'd like to also thank the Filipino people, the other departments of the government, and the different law enforcement agencies for all the support you have given to the Armed Forces of the Philippines in internal security operations. As we wind down and hopefully complete this by the end of the year, we again ask for the support of the Filipino people and also the other agencies of government to work with us hand in hand in pursuing long-lasting peace in our country. And also, I'd like to take this opportunity to commend the members of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, especially those who are deployed in the islands of the north, of course in the West Philippine Sea, and also down south, and also in the field, for all the efforts you have done to ensure that we attain our mission of protecting the people and securing our territory, our sovereignty, and securing the state. To everyone, rest assured, the Armed Forces of the Philippines will always be with the Filipino people in this quest for peace and in nation building. And to end, again, the Armed Forces of the Philippines will always ensure that we will protect our seas, our rights, and our future. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Thank you, General Gerlan, and thank you so much to our esteemed panelists of the Good Governance, Peace and Order and Security Cluster. Today we heard about threats and issues facing our country, but more importantly, we heard activities and programs of your departments and your agencies, all of course to keep us safe and prosperous, to contribute to nation building. Thank you so much for that, and of course we are here to support you in order to amplify the message of our great President Ferdinand Romualdez Marcos Jr. to achieve Bagong Pilipinas. And as we bring our Post-SONA Discussions 2024 to an end, I want to extend my gratitude to our esteemed panelists again and to everyone who participated. Yesterday and today's discussions have been valuable to our unwavering commitment to our nation's progress. As we move forward, may we continue to strive for excellence in all our future endeavors. Muli, ako po si Daphne Osenia Paez. This concludes our 2024 Post-SONA Discussions.